Now we're going to discuss our Lab 11, which is an assembly program that will determine the most frequent character in a given string. So let's start off with our segment dot in our C file first. Select the C file, which has the file name string.main, which will have the variable input with have 1000. So this is an array that will take in 1000 values or 1000 elements, and it will print this intro messages for our program. It will scan the user input for our string, and it will put it in our size, the number or the length of our string will be entered or will be stored in the size value or variable. So it will get the string length of our input, and this parameters, the input and the size, will be passed on in our ASM file. Let's discuss our ASM file now. So we have the input and the number or length of this input. It includes our space. So in our character, so we reserved 1000 bytes, so this 1000 bytes, and it will get different values. We have the char val. This is the different labels that will be filled in later on as we proceed in our program. The character, which will take in 1000 elements or 1000 reserved bytes. For our character values, it will just get one byte or one reserved or one space in our program. In our max char value, we have 1000 again. For max count 1, cur count 1, contrast 1. So we have a total of 6 tables here. In our segment.text, so we define our source. So EBP plus 8 is first parameter, which is the array or the string itself, string input. For our second parameter, which is stored in our address, EBP plus 12 is the size or the length of our string. Let's formally start in our ASM main. So we have push ESI and push EDI. So we have this in our stack to read and analyze our each character, to read and write. So in line 28, we read our source. In line 29, we check if we put the number of external loops in our ECX. So external loop is equal to the length of our string. In line 30, we set the value in max count address to 0, same with our char value, current count, and count. So this all are arrays. In 35, this function is string loop. So first, it will read the byte from our source. It will read how many strings or the reserved bytes depend on how big or how long our string. In line 37, we reset our current count value into 0, and we push it in our stack. After that, we store the character value address in our ECX register. So that we set it again to 0, so if check if all characters have entered the loop. In EDI, in line 41, we store our character in our EDI register, so this will write the characters. In line 42, if the EDI and the character are equal, then it will go to add char. If it's not, then it will go to the loop check. So for our add character, first we store the current input in our ES, which is the EDI, and then we increment our char value. In line 49, we check if the source of the string is equal to the EDI. In line 50, we check if the ECX is equal to the number of internal loops. And after that, we go to our first loop. So for our first loop, we count the number of current character in the input. So this is just same with the string length function, but this time it will not count the elements that is not part of our alphabet, so like the special characters. And if it's equal to string free, so scan checks if AL is equal to ESEI. In line 55, if it's equal, then it will go to string frequency. If it's not, then it will just go loop and loop, and it will iterate the loop again and again until it is equal to our if our AL and ES are already equal, then it will go to our string frequency. Then after that, it will go to most frequency. So if hindi siya equal, it will go to most frequency. If it's equal, then it will go to string frequency. So it will add existence points to the current element at out. So this one is string frequency. So it will check how many frequency or how many times a specific element shows up in our character. So if it's equal to 0, then it will go to the most frequency. If it's not equal to 0, then it will go to the first loop. So it will check every character in our element until it reaches 0. Or if it's not in the, if it's, so this compare ECX0 means that that specific character have not been yet recorded or haven't been showed in that string, so it will go to our string loop. So if it's greater than 0, then it will go to our string loop. If it's not, then it will go to our partial stop. For our partial stop, we have this in line 112, we have this set the value of the max count, the address for the max count into our ECX. So elements that have appeared more than once in the string input will be stored in our ECX. And our ECX will be decremented with 1 every time it's going back in our string loop. So let's go to string loop. So for our string loop, this one, we've already discussed this one. So it will go back there if um the string haven't been yet read all of the elements. So in our most frequent, so it will count, so ECX will be the value frequency of a specific character, and it will push the EDX to the value of the stack. And now the EDX will be equal to the current count of most frequent character. So the current count is the highest, partial highest number of occurrences in a specific character. It will compare which one is bigger, if it's ECX or EDX. So if EDX is less, then it will go to count set. If it's greater, then it will go to the end first loop. Then in line 81, the max count will be stored in our ECX. So the new number for ECX is the max count. So this will be the next, in the next reiteration, this will be the value that will be stored here. In EDI, we have the max char value, so EDI is equal to max char value. In 83, we add the EDI and EDX, so we will determine which address to be stored the element. In line 84, we have this function which will store our element or our character. In our count set, we have pushed the ECX to our stack. In line 90, we store the value of the current count in our ECX. So the current count is the largest, or like the current count of the specific character that the program is checking. Then it will go, then the value of ECX will go to count, then again that's where it will be repeated here. In our loop check, we have these elements have more than one frequency. So if it's equal to the first, then it will go to the first loop. If it's not, then it will go to loop check and jump to the add chart. So we've discussed this already. Now we're going to the print loop or the printing of our results. So we have this compare ECX to 0. So if ECX is equal to 0, we will go to the end. If it's not, so if the characters is not equal to 0 or the ECX is not equal to 0, then it will keep on checking the character of highest frequency. If the program have already found the highest value, then it will go to the end, which is the printing of the result. So in line 130,